Yeah, welcome to the DM and Friends. And today, as part of my How to Be a Better Dungeon Master, I'm going to talk about how to create monsters that are not in the monster manual. So, why create a custom monster? There could be various reasons that anybody has. There's hundreds of over here, there's hundreds of monsters in these 3 books alone. Um, Plus things online and other supplements, modules, etc. So why would you? In my case, I have players that know every single one of these monsters, the armor class, and everything like that. I want to keep them on their toes. And it could be a situation where I feel that having something unique could be very beneficial to the campaign. So it can be various reasons. So when I'm creating a monster, I kind of use a couple of rules uh, for myself, anyways, especially with the old school. Number one, I don't try to balance the monster. I don't worry about CRs and all that kind of stuff. I just create something, and the characters and the players, they have the ability to run away. I've said that before, and if they don't need to fight it, if they don't feel they can, and that's a truth that I use. So I don't worry about balancing stats. I don't worry about balancing the hit die. I just come up with an idea and I create it. Another big piece for me is you should keep it super simple too. If you are familiar with the monster manuals, most monsters only have a couple paragraphs of detail. I think that's great, and because it leaves me as a dungeon master the ability to just use my imagination for a lot of things. I don't need to know every single detail or situation. A lot of things can be made up on the fly, and I think that's an incredible advantage for some of the earlier editions. So when I create something, I just get a couple little blocks of detail, and boom, done. Um, I just put stats in there that I feel at work. I don't worry about a lot of the details. So aside from all the stats and details that I put in there, I also try to put in a weakness that the players could possibly figure out. I think that's a pretty important thing to add and to consider. So there's a couple cool tables in the Dungeon Master Guide. One in particular is on page 194, 195. This one is very specific to creating creatures from the outer planes. So there's tables for how many arms it has, what kind of claws, etc., how many eyes, all kinds of different things. So you could use stuff like that. I know there's other resources out there for creating what the monster is going to look like, etc. And as far as for experience, on page 85 of the Dungeon Master Guide is a chart, very specific chart based on hit die, how many special abilities it has, how many attacks, and that will give you a base XP value for that monster. That table is great because I see a lot of DMs wonder, like, well, how much XP is it worth if they kill it? So that's a good guideline to use if you're going to use try to figure out XP. So here's a recent monster that I created in my campaign for my players. I call it the Elemental Assassin. And I thought of a situation. Basically, the players had just finished the Temple of Elemental Evil. They pissed off a lot of cultists there. And it was so basically they were heading out of Hamlet after and to go do something on the Wild Coast. So I thought of this idea as like, what could I throw at the players as kind of a revenge tactic situation that the pissed off cultists could do to them. So I created this monster right here, and as you can see the stats on it, it's the Elemental Assassin. It's very rare. Number of appearing 1 to 6, armor class 2, etc., etc. 6+6 hit die. I wanted them to kind of be beefy. Um, they come with poison blade that basically could causes the person to fall unconscious. They're essentially an assassin, a a summoned creature that the cultists set after the group. What I thought my inspiration for this was the early Lord of the Rings cartoon, animated cartoon that came out in the 70s, and it was the Nazgul. And I thought, wow, cool. That's, obviously there's no Nazguls in Greyhawk, but I'm going to do something like this. So I used that as inspiration. And I thought, yeah, they actually come in when the party's sleeping and try to assassinate them. It worked out very well. And I also saw them as being large, they're very tall. They come in there in silence. So if you can see the very end of this, it says they have the abilities of an lethal assassin. And so it actually worked out really well. If you can also see where I was talking about earlier, the description of this this monster, this creature, is very short. The funny thing is I posted this on Reddit a while back, and I got a lot of comments on, well, what about this, or what about that, or can it go through walls, and if it goes through walls, what about the dagger it's holding, stuff like that. These are details that I don't want to jot down here. I'm not super concerned with as a dungeon master. I'll make that up and I'll think about it when it happens. I like the open-endedness of a very small description done. One thing of note that I was talking about earlier is that I put in a weakness for this monster on the second paragraph of this. It says, when struck by a blessed or holy weapon, the assassin's form dissipates into a sudden swirl of smoke and ash. So that is, if you had a cleric in there that had a blessed weapon, or et cetera, something like that, that's a huge weakness for this creature. So I think it's super important to consider things like that. The party had to figure that out, and that's how they ended up defeating these creatures. So that is my take on creating old school monsters. I think the most important thing is to just use your imagination and don't get super hung up on creating huge explanations for things. I think the key for these type of games is as simple as better. Just roll with it and have fun. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Have a good one. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe and like. Really, really appreciate it. And till next time, take care.